Welcome to the Mike Leaf Show on the Warrior Sports Network. I'm joined, as always, by Winona State Warriors head basketball coach, Mike Leaf. And, Coach, we've done a lot of talking kind of in the abstract over the last couple weeks, talking about, practice and things that you're hoping to see and things that maybe you're seeing on the court, during practice. But now we have 3 games with actual evidence to look at. As that has to help your kind of your feeling and you make some decisions rotation-wise and things like that based on things that you've actually seen?
Absolutely. You evaluate, and as a coaching staff, we talk about all the players and the strengths, weaknesses on certain combinations. And, having 3 games under our belt has really helped. And we had mentioned last time that it's nice to play against some competition other than just beating on each other. So, there's... I think defensively we picked up our intensity. We've got to make sure that we do it for 40 minutes. I'm concerned about our rebounding. We've got to do a much better job of that at both ends of the floor. And we've just got to really go after that ball. And that's been a little weakness of ours the last couple of years, and that's something we have to take care of.
You have wins over Wisconsin, Eau Claire, and St. Thomas, and then the close, hard-fought loss up at the barn on Monday to the University of Minnesota. Overall, are you pleased with what you've seen so far out of your kids?
I am, and I do like the fact that we've had a lot of combinations out there. A lot of people have been able to play, and you get that sense of you really do. I think there's a lot of things that are coming together for us. I think that we've got a good continuity of the players that are coming in. And I think one of my concerns going into the season was what combinations can you play? And, we had to go with a bigger lineup against Minnesota Gophers and with Joel Armstrong and Clayton Vetty, and I think they did and played very, very well. And unless you're courtside, TV doesn't do it justice, but it was such a physical game, and we really played. Our intensity level was very high. We played very, very hard, and we battled against guys that were, like I said, 250 to almost 300 pounds. So, you saw some good things, and I think the 3 games really helped us out. And it's nice that we got St. Mary's on the docket next, and as our opener, it's kind of and the reason I say nice is that I think the townspeople really like to see both the teams within the city, and they'll get hopefully we'll get a nice crowd, and, we'll play to the best of our ability.
One of the things that I've been impressed with, and I think people talking to fans are impressed with Kellen Taylor so far, a player who redshirted last year, hadn't seen him on the court yet in a Warrior uniform, 14 points in that first exhibition game against Eau Claire, and then 10 points against St. Thomas. What have you seen that you've liked so far out of Kellen's game?
Well, I'd tell you, Kellen is really well-rounded as a player. He's, he's got good size to him as far as height. We're still trying to bulk him up a little bit, but he can take the ball to the basket. He can shoot the three-pointer, and he's a great hustle player. And so he brings a lot of energy out there on the floor, and he communicates really well with his teammates. He actually told me that he did some stage work back in high school, so he's a heck of an actor out there as well. So he'll take a flop or 2 for us during the course of these games coming up. But no, he's really a talented player, comes from a great family, and a great ambassador. So he's going to do a nice job for us this year.
The other question that everybody had coming into the season was Anthony Tucker. We obviously know what type of talent he is, having played 2 years at Iowa, and he really is the real deal as we've seen over these first 3 games.
Yeah, Anthony, he came in here, and he's a class act. He really is. He's not a guy he's very unselfish. Sometimes I think he'd rather pass the ball than score, but he does. He makes people around him better, and I've gained in this short period of time that I've worked with him a great deal of respect for him, because he's like he told me, he wants to play and play basketball, the game he loves, and he wants to win. And we're up at Minnesota, and they were chanting at him and giving him a little bit of a hard time out there, but he said that's nothing. It's like water off a duck's back. He just wants to play, and he'll continue to get better. And we forget that he's only a junior for us, but he's got some great leadership qualities, and he's fun to watch. He really is.
You mentioned his passing ability. You have several really good facilitators in that starting lineup that has been trotted out over the first couple of games, both Tucker and Ben Fisher. Then you have other guys off the bench with some real good court vision. How much does that help your team when you have guys who can distribute and want to distribute the basketball to their teammates?
Oh, it's really important, and the thing about it is that the nice thing is they are all unselfish. And sometimes I think Ben Fisher's too unselfish because he's got a great outside shot, and he continues to want to distribute the ball versus scoring. And so, at the end of last year, he really did pick up a lot of our scoring. And so, in talking with him the other day, he's got to balance it. He's got open threes. He's got to knock them down. He's a great, he penetrates to the basket so well, and he can finish. And, I think it's just a matter of we've got new faces on the floor, and everybody's figuring each other out. And it takes a little time, but the chemistry's starting to come together.
Speaking of someone who can really finish, John Wahlberg, and we saw that especially up in the game in Minneapolis, a guy who can, if he gets going, just be lights out from outside, hit several big threes, three-pointers in a row to really cut into a Minnesota deficit there in the second, or a Minnesota lead in the second half.
Yep.
I mean, he's a guy who can just light up the scoreboard if he's feeling it.
Oh, absolutely, and he's got a great touch. I think against the Eau Claire game, my God, when we came out there on the floor, he was so pumped up that it was just like overexcited. And against Minnesota, he got the touch, and against St. Thomas, it was just a matter of for him, he's just got to stay on an even keel. He just gets way excited. He really does. But he's one of the things that people don't realize for him is that John's about 6'6", and he's a really great post defender. Mm-hmm. And he was battling those big guys up at Minnesota, and he's going to have to do that throughout the year as well. But he's got a great touch on the perimeter. If somebody larger, bigger is going to be guarding him, he's going to bring him out to the perimeter, and it's going to open up some nice driving lanes. But I've said this all along. He's probably the best shooter on our team, and if once in a while he'll force some, but that doesn't bother me as much, just because of the fact that I think great shooters, like in the past, your David Zellmans of the world, is that they can hit those shots down when there is somebody right on top of them. So he's coming into his own. Like I said, a very talented young man.
And having guys like Taylor and Wahlberg, Caleb Palkert, Xavier Humphrey, we'll hear from another one of the guys coming off the bench, Taylor Cameron, here in our next segment. But having that much depth and that much talent that you can pull off the bench has to be another just really comforting feeling for you.
Yeah, it is. Anytime you've got that depth, that really helps. And people don't realize how physical our league is, and it's a battle every night, especially in the block. And you've got to have those numbers, and you just never know what's going to happen during the course of a season. And knock on wood that we stay healthy, but sicknesses come about during the course of the season, and hopefully we don't have any injuries. But you need that depth, because 27 to 30 games is a lot during the course of the season.
Absolutely. Well, coming up next, we will sit down with one of those freshmen, Taylor Cameron, and he'll tell us a little bit about his initial experiences here at Winona State. You're watching the Mike Leaf Show on the Warrior Sports Network.
Friends, when you save them money on trucks, like a new 2011 Toyota Tacoma, our regular cab is under $21,000. The best-selling compact pickup for 5 years in a row. Making new friends every day at Dahl Toyota.
Mike Leaf Show. I'm Matt Prink, and now joining me is Taylor Cameron. And Taylor, you come from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Did you know much about the history of Winona State basketball before you came in?
Not really. I had seen a few things on ESPN or something when they were winning national championships, and I actually remember the day I saw the highlight when they lost that last-second shot in '07, I think it was. And I mean, that's about all I knew, and I knew that they had played in this conference from a couple kids from my high school went to like a Duluth or something like that. So I knew about this conference kind of, but not too much about Winona State.
What maybe was the deciding factor then when you wanted to come here to Winona State?
I think when I came here on my visit, I really liked the campus, and it was just 3 hours away, so far enough, but not too far. So, and I really liked what I saw with everything when I came here, and I just fell in love as soon as I got here.
You've had some significant playing time in the first 3 exhibition games. You're playing under a guy like Ben Fisher. Has he kind of helped you develop so far early in the season?
Yeah, when I first came here on my visit, actually, I just liked watching Ben play. The way he plays is just, I mean, he's so quick and so strong, and some of the passes he makes, I just, like watching him, and I think it's going to benefit me playing under him this whole season. And I mean, it's just fun to watch him, and I think I'm benefiting from it.
You're a 6'4" point guard, so you got a lot of size. In high school, were you a true point guard, or did you kind of like to go down low? Do you like to post some guys up as well?
Yeah, I played point guard my whole high school career, actually, and there was times I'd be the biggest one on the court. I mean, even our center on our team was only like 6'3", 6'4", and so there'd be some times I'd go in the post, but otherwise I'd always be bringing the ball up, I've handled the ball my whole life, and I just ended up being 6'4", so, but yeah, otherwise I've played point guard my whole life.
Do you like to maybe take advantage of that, maybe at this Division II level even? You matched up last night against Tyler Nikolai. He's a little shorter, and you kind of went in there, got some rebounds, and put him right back up. Is that something you think maybe you can use your height advantage against these smaller point guards?
Yeah, definitely. I think I can get to the like you said, get some rebounds and stuff like that on smaller point guards, and use your height to an advantage. Play like you're 6'4", and a lot of coaches say, don't play like you're 5'8", play like you're 6'4". So that's what I'm gonna try to do.
Okay, the exhibition season is over, and now you look ahead at St. Mary's and going down to Florida, coming up here over Thanksgiving. What's something maybe you think the team can work on? Is the cohesion all there yet? Are the guys coming off the bench? What do you think this team needs to get going for the regular season?
Well, as Coach said before, I think we all get along with each other really well, and I think the biggest thing, as Coach stressed last night, is rebounding. We got to get to the boards, we got to block out, and we got to go after them. They're not all just going to fall right in our lap. We got to go get them. So I think that's the biggest thing right now.
All right. Well, we'll look at we'll do your player profile now. In high school, were you a 3-sport athlete? If you didn't play basketball, what sport would you most want to play?
I loved playing football in high school. I was a 4-year football player, and I just loved playing football when I was in high school.
Did you you're from Oshkosh. Were you a farm boy? Did you live in the city? What's maybe the storyline there?
I'm actually a little bit of both, believe it or not, because I lived in the city, but the whole half of my mom's side of the family is all farmers. They have 2 or 3 farms, and my sister has got a horse, and so we're kind of a mixer of both there.
You're from Wisconsin. Does that mean you are a gold and green guy, a big staunch Packer fan, or are you one of those guys who maybe likes the Vikings?
I'm kind of a tweener. I always put it like this. I'm always just a fan of the game. I like to watch, whatever's on TV. So I don't really have, a favorite, but I like to watch both games. I'll watch the Packers, I'll watch the Vikings, whoever's playing on TV.
Okay, we'll put you in the shoes of Brad Childress then. Do you wave Randy Moss?
I don't wave Randy Moss. That's one thing I said right away. I don't think you wave him. I think he made Percy Harvin a lot better, even though Percy did have a good game. Again, without Randy Moss, I wouldn't have dropped him.
Well, hopefully you know Taylor Cameron a little bit better. You'll see a lot of him coming off the bench, the backup point guard, true freshman out of Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Coming up in our next block, Grant Wall and I will break down the past exhibition season and look ahead at St. Mary's. You're watching The Mike Leaf Show.
These guys aren't going to give up. It's only our second outing, and we're trying to accomplish some things. We've got some new faces, and probably the biggest thing is our rotation and what players, the chemistry out there on the floor, which ones are playing the best together. So I was proud of the fact that that it hadn't with this group been in this situation. So it was we could have keeled over, and we made a couple bad passes, turnovers. They get some layups. Get a dunk, and the momentum did swing, And we had that timeout, and I said, we're going to be in situations like this again, and we've got to go out there and battle and really take care of the basketball and get some great shots. Minnesota obviously is a great team, and one of the things going in was the rebounding aspect. We knew it was going to be tough to get a lot of rebounds, which is apparent with the statistics here. But we did want to come in and play aggressive, and obviously we got a lot of player fouls, so we must have played aggressively.
John looked like he was almost near tears, and this meant a lot to you guys getting that close an exhibition.
Oh, absolutely. John is a competitor, and he's coming into his own this year. He's probably our best shooter on the team, and our guys are. We try and build that camaraderie and family atmosphere, and so they care about one another. And I think that's if somebody takes a charge, you're the first guy over there to pick them up off the ground. So I think those things are important. And John's actually class act, and he's a great young man. He'll battle to the end.
Was there size? The free throw differential, was it due to size, aggressive way it was called?
Well, you were there. So we fouled, and I percentage-wise, I don't know, they shot about 61% something. I don't have my cheaters on, but they've got size, and I think sometimes when you're a little smaller, it's a little bit more apparent when you're trying to battle somebody. But obviously, they got such depth inside, and we knew that was going to be our big nemesis. But actually, it's probably in all of our practices, Clayton Vetty and Joel Armstrong, even skinny old Caleb Palkert, the three of them battled inside pretty heavy duty against guys that were maybe 100 pounds bigger than Caleb. So I was proud of the fact that we really battled hard inside, and we forced them to take some shots that were a step or two outside maybe the layup aspect. So that really did help.
Yeah, your defensive performance?
Yeah, I was. Other than the rebounding, I thought we gave up too many of those, and I'm not a fan of having 20 turnovers in a game. I think we had 8 or 9 in the first half, and during that stretch, we turned the ball over when we shouldn't, and that let them build on that lead, and we needed to keep it within a 10-point game if we were going to have a chance. But defensively, I'm pleased with the way that we hustled and went after it. There's some team rebounding that happened there toward the end. Ben Fisher would come from the backside and get the steal. So team defense is important, and I think we did a pretty good job of that.
When you walk away from this game overall, obviously you came back and had a chance to made it close at the end.
Yeah, but for me, it's I've always, my philosophy's always been I don't care who we're playing against. That at least I want us to step out on the floor and go from start to finish and leave it out there on the floor. And I also want our guys to have fun because it's a great game. And for me, playing Minnesota or last week last Wednesday we played UW Eau Claire, and now we've got St. Thomas on Wednesday. Will we play as hard on Wednesday as we did tonight and have that progression? And that's what we have to have if we're going to do anything great this year. So that's what I'm really looking for. I thought we battled to the end. We left it out there on the floor. Granted, we did make some mistakes. It's the nature of the game, but we'll get back to work tomorrow and correct a couple of those things, and we need to be ready and play just as hard against if we're playing the Timberwolves or something like that. So that's what I got. Out of it. I will say it's nice that the University of Minnesota does that for our Division II schools across the state, because it's really a thrill for our players. We've got some nice stadiums, in our conference, but to be able to come to the Barn and the history and things. I've been a Gopher fan all my life, and it's fun to come up here. So we appreciate them having us here and the rest of our conference schools to be able to come here and have that experience. So I know they really enjoy that because it's a first-class venue.
See what a smile can do. At Hy-Vee, your health is what matters most.
That's why we offer hundreds of organic and heart-healthy foods.
Expertise in disease management and over 100 in-store dietitians. We'll customize a diet and exercise program for you and your family. We're your personal health team, here to keep you healthy and happy.
Welcome back to the Mike Leaf Show. You just saw Coach Leaf in his post-game press conference after the game against Minnesota on Monday up in Minneapolis. And Matt, that was, I think, as impressive a performance as you could get out of Winona State without actually coming away with a victory. Every aspect of the game, I thought that they played extremely well. And if you take away maybe the first 7 minutes of the game where the Warriors were whistled for 10 fouls and Minnesota whistled for none, that's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, you can chalk it up as a quality loss. You don't say that very often, but yeah, 33 fouls whistled against Winona State, just 19 against the Gophers. So a very physical basketball game that, they maybe dug themselves a hole in the first half, but they're down 17 in the second half. A very impressive comeback. They got it down to, I think, 4 or 5 there with a couple minutes to go. So you got to chalk that one up as a quality exhibition matchup that made this team that much better.
And you hate moral victories. As a player, as a coach, as a fan, you don't like the moral victory, even though it's a loss. You don't like the putting something in the moral victory column. But if there ever was one, this one might have been it. Going into a hostile Big Ten environment against a good Big Ten team, against officials who were clearly favoring the Big Ten opponent, and you're down 16 or 17 in the second half and come back and have a real shot to win it at the end. That is, like we said, that's about as good as they could have hoped without actually coming out with the victory.
Well, that just shows you how good of a coach Mike Leaf is to say, hey guys, we're fine. We'll take it one possession at a time, and that's what they did. John Wahlberg comes down. I think he hit 3 consecutive three-point baskets, almost had a 4-point play. So you needed that energy, but that energy, comes right from the head coach and those guys on the sideline. The bench was in it all night, and that transferred to the floor.
And that was a fantastic effort out of the Warriors, and then came back against St. Thomas on Wednesday night. Coach Leaf talked about it, a little bit sluggish there in the first half, but really turned it on. I think it was a 19-5 run out of the gates in the second half. Ended up winning by 20. It seems to me, at least, that this team is really starting to come together, and that has to be about the last thing that the other teams in the NSIC want to hear. Yeah,
they got it down to Clayton Vetty on the block. You look at the start of that second half, and he had the first 6 points. So that started a quick 6-0 run. Winona State went up, I think, 11. But I thought, he was one of the most important players on the court, and he's going to need to be, whether they go with Armstrong and Vetty or they go a little smaller. Clayton Vetty, he's going to be an adamant part of this team, and once you get him rolling, you try and look at this team, you say, well, who do we guard now? Who do we try and stop?
Yeah, if you stop Vetty, one of the guards will penetrate or hit a shot, and then C.J. Erickson, Joel Armstrong, Caleb Palkert off the bench, Cameron Taylor off the bench. The list goes on and on and on. There are just so many weapons on this Warrior team.
They just keep coming, and when you get Vetty going to the hole hard last night, you saw him actually, getting that contact. He'd get the foul, but he'd adjust his body in midair, make sure he used the glass. And that was good to see because, last year he was still trying to get his feet back under him. He doesn't want to be injured anymore, and that's always been in the back of his mind. Hopefully that'll be in the rearview mirror, and now he can come to play every night.
Well, and when the 12th guy off the bench last night was a guy like Xander Culver, who is one of the quickest guys on the team, can get to the rim as fast as anyone, and has a great outside shot. When that's your 10th, 11th, 12th man off the bench, that's a fantastic situation to be in.
That's a lot of guys to try and guard and try and keep up with, and that's what you saw last night was, St. Thomas, their first game, they got tired. Winona State was not tired. They got all 12 guys in, cycled them in, and that's what eventually led to that second half victory.
That's right. And that's all the time we have for this segment here. We'll be back a little bit more with Warrior head coach Mike Leaf right on the other side of this break.
Looking for great off-campus housing? Great River Management and Sales has a large selection of houses and apartments representing many of Winona's property owners. Owners and renters rely on Great River Management. Stop by the Great River Boat at Main and Broadway and see what we can do for you.
Mike Leaf Show on the Warrior Sports Network. The regular season is upon us now, Coach. St. Mary's on Saturday kicks off the regular season, and then you take the team down to Florida for a couple games, playing Northwood University on November 17th, and then Barry on November 20th. As much fun as the exhibition games were, and you got to see different things, players on the floor, you have to be excited to, start playing games that are going to count on that final win-loss record.
You bet. They do count. And, we've expressed this the last week. And, one of the things I think is really important from a team aspect is that I don't care if we're playing the Gophers or whomever we're playing, is that we have to play our best game in and game out. And I think it's probably the toughest thing to teach. It really is. It's a matter of, we've all been in a situation, as I shared with our team, that may it be in high school or whatever, that you're playing a team you're supposed to beat by 30 points and 2 minutes to go in the game, and it's a tie ball game, and it's like, what happened? You really have to be mentally tough and mentally, sound in going into every game, and you've got to play to the best of your abilities if you want to win some championships. So it's, unfortunately, we get to start at home. Going on the road is a nice bonus for us that we're able to take a major trip. But it's also, you're going to have to go on the road, and you've got to defeat some great teams. And so I think we've got two quality teams that we're going to be playing against, and we've got to come out, like I said, and play our best.
Going on the road, is that an advantage for you, being able to kind of get the team together, sequestered together on a road trip where it's just basketball and can really kind of foster a team environment? I know you've talked about how well the guys get along together. Is it nice to get them away, out of town, off campus, to where it's just them and basketball and kind of spending that time together as a team?
It is. It's really invaluable. It's a time where, off the court, you've got practices that are down there, but off the court you're able to, integrate different personalities, and I think it's really a key, not just on the road, but even here at home. And I know that it was a key for us back the last few years when we've had some successes, is that you don't have dissensions, you don't have cliques, you've got a group of quality young men that all get together and get along together, and I think that's really, really key.
Playing in Florida, what have you seen, kind of scouting and looking at those Florida teams? What can we expect from those matchups down there?
Well, it'll be like 5-on-7 because I know the officials won't be on our side down there. That's for sure. But no, it's they've got great quality basketball down in Florida. We've been there in the past. Both teams like to push the ball up the floor. I mean, it'll be the same things that we see here, but it's just doing the things that we need to do on the floor that is important for me. And my two assistants, Tom Brown and Chris Gove. I want to say Grove because he hates when I do that. But they do such a great job of scouting, and we'll have what we need to get the job done. But it's just doing those little things, the communication, the rebounding we talked about earlier, and getting those things done, and continuing to grow from game to game, getting ready for that conference season.
And games against Northwood and Barry, and then also St. Mary's, I mean, those are going to be, hardly contested games against very good athletes. And that's got to serve you well going into an NSIC schedule where any team on any given night can beat anybody else.
There's no question about it, and I think we see that across the country. To instill the fact that, and you just mentioned it, to instill the fact that on any given night anything can happen is a huge key. And if we really can mentally go into every game as if we're playing for a national championship or playing the last game in your career, that's what you want to have out of your players. And you got to sell that, and it's a key component. And I think, our game against St. Thomas showed that in the first half. We played a little lackadaisical, and then in the second half we came out right off the bat, and we played with a much more high energy, and we've got to do that. You can't have lapses if you want to do some great things. And once, those preseason polls don't mean anything to me, but you're going to see those, and they throw you at such and such a number in the country, and then all of a sudden other teams read that, and what do they want to do? They want to knock you off. So that's the pressures that you have, but at the same time, it's a great pressure.
All right, well, thank you very much, Coach. That's all the time we have for today. Looking forward to getting you back from Florida and talking about those games.
Do you have your tickets? Are you going to Florida?
I wish. I would love the...
I'll talk to administration.
Yeah, I would love the sun in the sand if I could go down there. But we'll look forward to talking a little bit about those games and then prepping for the conference schedule that's just around the corner. It's hard to believe, but that conference season's just coming right up.
Sure is.
That's all the time we have for today. For Coach Leaf, I'm Grant Wall. Thank you very much for watching.